It was a moment nobody saw coming. A cultural spark that erupted quietly at first and then roared across the internet with a force no pastor or gospel fan could ignore. Pastor Brian Ka, known for his thunderous sermons, his unwavering confidence, and the magnetic authority he carries into every pulpit, suddenly found himself pulled into the center of an unexpected viral whirlwind. And the unlikely match that lit the fire was none other than gospel legend Marvin Winans, a man revered for his timeless voice and spiritual influence, but who, on this particular day, wielded humor and critique like a sharpened instrument, delivering a public troll so subtle, so bold, and so perfectly executed that it left the entire faith community buzzing in disbelief. At age 38, Pastor Ka was called out, teased, and put under a spotlight he never asked for, and the collision of their personalities, humility versus prestige, rising influence versus established legacy, ignited conversations that stretched far beyond laughter, diving into hidden dynamics of respect, rivalry, ego, and the fragile balance of leadership in the gospel world. For decades, Pastor Ka has cultivated a reputation that commands rooms, the kind of preacher whose voice fills sanctuaries, whose sermons circulate through millions of screens, and whose digital presence makes him one of the most recognizable modern pastors. Yet even the most respected figures can stumble into moments that test their poise. When Marvin's playful jab surfaced, no one expected the ripple it would create. Some called it lighthearted fun, others labeled it shade, and a few insisted it was a challenge meant to test the younger pastor's resilience. As the moment spread, the gospel world paused as if holding its breath. Commentators dissected the clip, fan bases clashed, and behind closed doors, leaders whispered their own interpretations of what the gesture really meant. The incident did more than expose a humorous exchange. It unveiled truths about perception, influence, and the delicate hierarchy that exists within gospel culture, raising questions about whether Marvin's words were simple teasing or a quiet declaration that the younger generation still had much to learn. Meanwhile, Pastor Ka, completely unaware at first, was simply preparing for his Sunday sermon, walking through the church hallways as volunteers bustled around him and the sanctuary hummed with pre-service excitement, unaware that his team's phones were flooding with notifications and trending tags connected to his name. Even as he stepped onto the stage and delivered a sermon that thousands streamed live, the internet was already dissecting Marvin's comments with surgical precision, analyzing tone, context, intentions, and the unspoken history between the two men. Rumors of tension had circulated before. Occasional comments, subtle interviews, inside jokes whispered in gospel circles, but never had anything gain traction the way this viral moment did. Reports say Pastor Ka had been under immense pressure in recent weeks, juggling ministry demands, social media scrutiny, and the ever-growing expectations of his platform. So when Marvin's critique came, it struck the community at the exact moment when the world was already watching. The troll itself began subtly, a sly comment during a live stream, a tweet that hid its sting behind humor, a passing remark in an interview that sounded friendly but carried a sharp edge, and fans immediately began replaying the clip, turning it into memes, looping it into TikTok reactions, and crafting elaborate theories about what Marvin really meant. Overnight, trending hashtags exploded, threads filled with laughter, shock, and outrage. Creators added commentary and reenactments, and gospel fans from every corner of the internet weighed in, making Pastor Ka, usually the one delivering the message, the unexpected message himself. Yet what made this moment unforgettable was not humiliation. It was the brilliance of Marvin's execution, the way he blended humor, insight, and cultural critique into a perfectly timed jab that reminded everyone that even icons can playfully challenge rising stars, and even the strongest leaders can be caught off guard. And just when people thought the story had reached its peak, Marvin delivered another twist, another bold comment, another subtle shade that pushed the narrative deeper, stirring conversation not only about Pastor Ka's response, but also about leadership, humility, mentorship, and the unspoken rules that govern power in the gospel world. The moment the first clip surfaced, it traveled like wildfire through every platform. Twitter exploded with debates. Instagram Reels replayed the moment endlessly. YouTube commentators analyzed it frame by frame, and TikTok creators layered their voices over Marvin's videos that gathered millions of views. And amid the chaos, one truth became clear. This wasn't just a troll. It was a moment that exposed the fragility of reputation, the unpredictability of influence, and the human side of those we expect to always remain strong. It wasn't the troll itself that stunned the gospel world. It was the subtle genius woven into every syllable Marvin Winans delivered, a kind of refined insider humor that didn't strike at Pastor Brian K's integrity, faith, or ministry, but instead danced effortlessly on the line between playful critique and cultural commentary, leaving everyone who witnessed it wondering how one man could deliver a jab so sharp without ever cutting deep. This wasn't an insult, it wasn't petty, and it certainly wasn't meant to humiliate. It was clever, calculated, and layered with a nuance only those deeply embedded in gospel culture could truly decode. And the moment it landed, fans immediately split into two passionate camps. One praising Marvin for being bold enough to challenge a younger figure in such a witty, confidently seasoned way, and another rushing to Brian's defense with fierce loyalty, highlighting his decades of ministry, his impact on congregations, and the immense respect he commands across an entire generation of believers, turning the whole moment into a fascinating mix of admiration, rivalry, and curiosity that fueled hours of conversation online. As notifications exploded across his phone, Pastor K found himself receiving messages from every direction. Concerned friends asking if he was all right, amused colleagues sending laughing emojis, and a handful of naysayers mocking the situation. But what stood out most was how quickly this playful exchange between two respected men in ministry morphed into a viral storm, reminding everyone that influence isn't just power, it's exposure, and even spiritual leaders are not exempt from the unpredictable waves of public perception. Insiders later revealed that Brian's initial reaction wasn't anger, embarrassment, or offense, but genuine intrigue. He respected the subtlety of Marvin's joke and recognized the brilliance behind such a culturally sharp, well-timed moment, understanding that this wasn't simple teasing but a masterclass in influence, a reminder of how quickly conversations can shift when a respected elder chooses humor as his tool. The reactions only intensified as gospel networks, podcasts, live streams, and late-night commentary channels dissected the moment, with analysts breaking down the exchange frame by frame, church groups discussing it in their private chats, and even young gospel artists mimicking the clip with playful skits, turning a single moment into a cultural phenomenon. And just when it looked like the buzz would fade, Marvin added a second tease, a follow-up remark that layered humor, critique, and insight in a way that reignited the debate, transforming what could have been a one-day joke into a full-blown case study on timing, legacy, and the generational dynamics shaping the gospel world. Behind this humorous surface, however, simmered something deeper, an unspoken tension between respect and relevance, between old-school authority and new-school influence, between the expectations placed on icons and the pressure placed on rising leaders, all of which made Pastor K suddenly aware that how he responded publicly, privately, and spiritually would shape not only the story's direction but also the way millions perceived his character from this day forward. When the cameras turned off and his sanctuary grew quiet, Brian retreated into reflection, understanding that this wasn't simply about being trolled. This was about leadership under pressure, the vulnerability that comes with platform, and the emotional weight of being visible enough to be publicly teased by a legend. He processed it not with panic, but with poise, taking calls from trusted advisors and listening to the perspectives of those closest to him. Some encouraged him to clap back with humor, others advised silence. But Brian knew he needed to respond in a way that reflected the grace and wisdom he preached. He recognized that the moment demanded emotional intelligence, not ego. And so, instead of defensiveness, he chose humility. Instead of irritation, he chose insight. Instead of adding fuel to the viral fire, he chose to elevate the narrative, publicly acknowledging the moment with humor and grace, while privately using it as an opportunity to examine his own heart and leadership. What the world saw as entertainment was, behind the scenes, a profound lesson in spiritual maturity, reminding everyone that even the strongest leaders face unexpected moments that test their patience, their identity, and their ability to remain steady while the world watches. In the end, Pastor K's response became more impactful than the troll itself, a demonstration of resilience, perspective, and emotional steadiness that revealed far more about his character than any sermon could. The moment Pastor Brian K found himself thrust into the center of an unexpected viral storm, sparked by none other than gospel legend Marvin Winans, he was forced to navigate a whirlwind of public scrutiny, internal reflection, and emotional resilience, balancing the need to protect his reputation with the wisdom to turn an unexpected troll into a moment of mentorship, elevation, and teaching for the entire faith community. Insiders reveal that the hours following Marvin's perfectly timed jab were filled with a mixture of introspection and quiet amusement, as Ka and his closest team members replayed the moment, acknowledging the brilliance of its delivery while simultaneously grounding themselves in the truth that viral attention, no matter how loud, could never overshadow the mission, calling, and spiritual purpose that guided his work. As the internet lit up with debates, threads, and reactions, church communities buzzed, Bible study rooms erupted with discussions, and social media became a battleground of opinions. Some applauding Marvin's humor as a refreshing display of authenticity among leaders, others questioning whether the playful critique had crossed the line, challenging long-standing norms of respect within the gospel world, while memes, remixes, and comedic reactions spread at lightning speed, showing just how deeply interconnected modern faith culture and digital virality had become. Congregations debated leadership dynamics, pastors dissected the moment as a case study in humility, and analysts pointed out the intersection of influence, timing, and generational perspective, noting that Ka, at 38, stood at a pivotal point in his career where legacy was still forming but influence was already undeniable. And as younger audiences praised Marvin's viral strategy, older leaders admired the refined artistry behind his humor, turning what began as a joke into a powerful, multi-layered cultural event. While fans flooded Ka's inbox with messages ranging from concern to laughter to outright admiration for his calm demeanor, a smaller but vocal minority insisted the line had been crossed, sparking deeper conversations about how leaders should navigate public teasing in a faith-driven environment where respect, tradition, and spiritual authority remain foundational. Behind the scenes, what the world didn't see was Ka's emotional processing, how he stepped away from the noise to reflect, how he weighed possible responses, how he recognized that one impulsive reaction could shift public opinion instantly, and how he ultimately embraced the moment not as an attack, but as an opportunity for growth, grace, and leadership refinement. That night, his closest circle reminded him that a leader's greatness is not measured by flawless moments, but by the way they navigate uncomfortable ones, and Ka himself internalized the truth that even spiritual giants must remain emotionally flexible in a world where their every expression is magnified. Meanwhile, the gospel world continued spiraling with interpretations and commentary, transforming Marvin's troll into a full-blown phenomenon. Blogs, podcasts, and YouTube channels dedicating entire segments to analyzing it, influencers debating its meaning, and congregants framing it as a modern parable of humility, influence, and accountability. But the story took a deeper turn when Marvin, in a follow-up interview, delivered a subtle yet profound reflection that completely reframed the narrative, revealing that his humor was not meant to belittle Ka, but to illuminate the delicate balance of influence and humility required of leaders in the public eye. His comment emphasized that no matter how respected or established a leader becomes, they must remain teachable, grounded, and aware that public moments, lighthearted or serious, carry lessons for both the giver and receiver. For Ka, this shifted everything. Sources say he reflected for days, recognizing that this wasn't simply a joke or a viral moment, it was a mirror revealing the importance of grace under pressure, emotional intelligence in leadership, and the power of responding to unexpected challenges with maturity, humor, and an unwavering sense of purpose. Across the gospel community, discussions evolved from entertainment to deeper cultural reflection, what the exchange meant for intergenerational respect, how humor can coexist with reverence, and what it truly means to lead authentically in an age where social media magnifies even the smallest gestures. Ka's graceful response, neither defensive nor dismissive, became a model for leaders everywhere, proving that true strength is not found in retaliation but in reflection, composure, and the ability to turn a moment of potential embarrassment into one of communal learning. And as the dust settled, the entire faith world walked away with a powerful reminder: leadership is not defined by flawless authority, but by the courage to stand steady when the spotlight shifts unexpectedly, by the willingness to learn from every moment, even one wrapped in humor, and by the quiet, enduring humility that shapes legacies far more deeply than applause. For Pastor Ka, this wasn't a loss. It was a moment of revelation, a testament to his growth, and a reminder that influence is not only about how loudly you speak, but how gracefully you endure what is spoken about you.